Casting a play is very much like putting together a puzzle, except all of the pieces are blank. Sometimes you have too many pieces, sometimes you don't have enough pieces, and there are multiple ways that the puzzle can be successfully assembled. Sounds fun, right? Hello and welcome, my name is Kaylee Jo and I make content all about my experiences as a theater educator, and at the time that I am recording this video it is mid-December, which in the educational theater world means that there are lots of auditions happening for spring shows. I am a part of several online theater teacher groups and forums, and recently I have started to see lots of posts from teachers and directors who are struggling with the process of casting this season. Some of these struggles are coming from the actual act of having to choose cast members, and some of these struggles are from facing backlash from students and even parents whenever the cast list finally goes up. Anytime that I personally am casting a show, I know that I require many conversations with my trusted friends, colleagues, my husband, my mother, whoever will listen to me as I go through the very difficult and very delicate process of choosing the correct students for the correct roles in the educational theater setting. But today I have decided to have this conversation with the internet. So let's sit and chat about how to make these incredibly difficult decisions while honoring your students' talents and contributions and maintaining your sanity in the process. First things first, we're going to start with some brutal honesty, and that is the fact that you cannot please everyone and not everyone is going to understand or accept your decisions, and that is okay. And this is coming from someone who is very much a people pleaser, somebody who cares very deeply about how others are feeling, especially my students. I did not get into education so that I could hurt and disappoint children by any means, but something that I've realized over the years, and it really has taken me years to get to this point, is the fact that the purpose of casting is not to make everyone happy. The purpose of casting is to find the very best performers for the roles in the title that you have available. And that's a really difficult pill to swallow, and I can assure you that I have spent many sleepless nights following the posting of the cast list, worried about my kids and about how they're feeling, and it will just eat you up inside if you let it. So just remember, you cannot please everyone, and it's not your job to please everyone. All right, I would like to share some tips for a smooth casting process because, like I said, not everybody is going to understand your choices, but if you implement some of these strategies, it is going to make your casting process so much smoother, and it really does cut down on those post-cast list blues from both you and your students. This first one is all about your paperwork. So on your audition forms, have a section where students can tell you what they are comfortable and uncomfortable with. And I have a few different things I do this for. I do this for gender. So what genders are they comfortable being cast as? Are there any genders they do not want to be cast as well as what size role they're looking for. I have some kids who have no desire to have a lead role. They don't want that. Maybe they also do other activities and they need time for those as well, so they only want to be ensemble. And on the flip side, I have other kids who are only interested in a lead role because they do a lot of different activities, and so they're going to have to drop one to do the show. So if they don't get a lead role, they don't want to drop this other activity, and I completely respect that. I would much rather kids be honest with me up front instead of getting a role that they don't want and then dropping and then me having to recast different parts. That just makes things really complicated. So having this on the paperwork ahead of time is a big help whenever I'm making those final decisions. In this paperwork, I also require students to get signatures from 3 of their other teachers that all agree that by them participating in this show, they don't have any concerns about it interfering with their academics. I implemented this because I found in the past that I was having kids pulled from my shows because their academics were so poor. This was a school policy, not mine, but it just made things really difficult. So by getting those signatures ahead of time, it kind of alleviates that issue right from the start. Also, kind of as a bonus point, this gives me a reference list of teachers to talk to. So if this is a student that I personally haven't worked with before, I can always look at the teachers' names on that list and go ask them, hey, how is this student in class? How do they work with others? And all of those types of questions that can really make a difference whenever you're choosing a cast. By the way, I will be posting a video very soon where I go over all of my audition paperwork, including a link where you can just make a copy of it and edit it for your own needs. I will be sure to throw up a link on the screen once that video is posted. Tip number 2 for a smooth casting process: record your auditions and callbacks. So it is impossible to observe every little thing that students are doing during auditions and callbacks, especially if your head is down because you're writing notes. So it has been an invaluable tool for me to be able to go back and rewatch some of those performances while I'm making casting decisions. Tip number 3, do not be the only adult in the room making these decisions. Do not put all of that on your shoulders alone. So let's say you're doing a musical, maybe you have a choreographer or a music director. Absolutely have them come into the audition room with you. If you are doing all of those things yourself, bless you, and still go find another adult to help you make these choices. Anyone who has performance experience of any kind will be a positive addition to your audition panel. I personally do keep this to people who are already working within my school district, because a lot of the time you need to have background checks run on anybody who's going to come in and work with the kids. And so just to alleviate the need for all of that additional paperwork, I do try to keep it to my district, and I personally haven't had any issue finding other adults who want to be involved in this process and can offer valuable insight. Tip number 4, explain your expectations for after the cast list goes up well before the cast list goes up. I list these things in my audition packet. I verbally speak them at audition workshops and before auditions start and before callbacks start. And then I type them at the beginning of the email that goes out to students with the cast list attached to it. I take every opportunity to remind students of my expectations. Expectation number 1 is be kind to yourself and to others, both in person and on social media. All right, for this next one, I'm going to read exactly what I write in all of my audition packets and casting emails. I will not discuss other performers' auditions with you, but I'm happy to discuss your personal audition. Feel free to schedule a time to speak with me in person about your audition. I will not discuss your audition or casting via email. And I do this because it is so easy for kids to just hit reply to that cast list email as soon as they get it and want to know, why did I get this part? Why did so-and-so get this part? And so on. And I'm just not going to entertain those types of conversations whenever students are feeling whatever emotions they're feeling whenever that cast list comes out. So I will always schedule a time to speak with them in person. And then I make sure that during that conversation, I never discuss other students and why we put them where we put them. I just discuss the student that's in front of me and what they can personally do to improve their audition in the future. And by scheduling this ahead of time, it also gives me time to consult with the other members of the audition panel so that I can get their feedback to share with the student as well. So that that meeting that we have is really valuable to the student, because that's the purpose of it. Tip number 5, always post your cast list on a Friday, preferably right before an extended break of some kind. I personally do 2 shows a year. I do a play and a musical. That first round of auditions happens right before Labor Day, so students have a 3-day weekend to process that information. And then I do my spring show auditions right before winter break, so they have like a full 2 weeks to process all of their feelings. And I find that this just means that everybody comes back to school a little more clear-headed than if I had posted the cast list in the middle of the week and then had to face everybody the very next morning. I also wanted to share that I personally post my cast list in 2 places. I do a physical cast list out on the bulletin board outside of my classroom, and then I also email it. And this gives students 2 different options on how they want to receive that information. Some students love the experience of walking up to the cast list with all of their friends and reading it right there in front of everyone, and other people like to be able to privately scan through an email and receive the information that way. So that way, I'm supporting both kinds of students. I want to take a moment to be really honest here and share a little confession of mine in hopes of making you feel a little bit better about your own experiences, and also to remind you that you're not alone. Casting is not a perfect science, and you are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. More than once, I have gotten to the end of the run of a show, and I have said quietly to myself with no other living soul anywhere near me, darn, that student did not end up being the best choice for that role after all. Yes, this has happened to me more than once. Maybe they didn't take direction well. Maybe their attendance was spotty. Maybe they didn't work well with others. Obviously, I try to correct these issues along the way, and sometimes if the issues are large enough, I will even end up having to replace a student mid-rehearsal process, which is always terribly hard, but sometimes it's necessary. But folks, this is educational theater, and you do not know what a student can do a lot of the time until you give them the opportunity to show you. And sometimes students exceed my expectations and show me that they are ready for bigger and better roles, and sometimes they do the complete opposite, but that's just all a part of the process. So the next time that you are casting a show, make sure that you have great paperwork in place from the start. Make sure to involve other adults to help you and support you during this process, and make sure that you have strong policies in place about communication after that cast list is posted. And most importantly, remember that you are doing the best that you can, and not everybody is going to be happy with your decisions, and that is okay. Please let me know if there are any other director or theater teacher specific topics you would like me to cover here on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, break a leg.